Good afternoon. Thank you for being a little early, being on time. We know it's a busy time of day. Teachers, if we could just ask if you could have, hopefully you've received your copy of Anywhere Farm. Excellent. If you could just have it with you, because we will be referring to it. If you don't have it, it's okay, but if you do, that would be great.
Good evening. While we're waiting, may I ask a question, please?
Sure.
With the children's field trip, is this a virtual or is this on site?
So we're really hoping that with COVID precautions, we're allowed to get out there, because you'll see there's amazing things to be done out there.
Yeah.
And transportation is included.
Thank you.
It's a good question. I think it's the question everyone's wondering, to be honest. So
I agree. That is a good question.
I think we might make a start. We want to honor your time and end on time. And it looks like we've got, most of us are here. So let's dig in. Great. Well, welcome everyone to the P3 workshop linking the book Anywhere Farm to some biology units and a multitude of subjects, and also linking to a fantastic experiential learning trip with AgraLiving, and we'll be speaking with AgraLiving shortly. This session we've called Growing Through Learning and Plants, and we're going to go through some lesson plans we've designed for you to use as a launching pad and to adapt and change. And this will also be an interactive workshop as well, where we'll be inviting your suggestions and thoughts as we go through. So just a very quick introduction. My name's Sally. I'm a primary school teacher as well. I've been teaching for 13 years in several different countries, and I've taught in both the public and the private schools and taught all levels from P1 to P6. I actually met Becky, who runs Ben. We met at graduate school, and we actually met over our love of children's literature. And I've been involved with Ben for several years now, and most recently, since last October, I've been working with some curriculum design and working with some of Ben's network teachers. So yeah, and also I just love being in Bermuda. I'm here now. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to meet in person, but it's a really lovely opportunity to be working with the public schools in Bermuda.
All right, so I'm Kelly Rade. I teach P3 at St. George's Prep. Some of you may know me from our ministry workshops that we used to have. My favorite part of those workshops was when we would sit at tables and we would discuss things that weren't necessarily the topics, because it's really nice being from a one-stream school to get together with other teachers. And that's the whole point of Ben, is to have a network of teachers that can bounce ideas off each other and share experiences. We're not always reinventing the wheel every time. So, and then I've got a special challenge this year that my 7-year-old son is in my class. So thoughts and prayers, please. It's been challenging. Yeah, so if you're like me, you're constantly being reminded to enter in grades into gradebook that are linked to the standards. One of the great things about this workshop is that it's got that all lined out for you. And you'll see it combines a lot of fun in a meaningful way into your lesson.
And just while we, just thinking about Ben, some of you might know that the Horizons curriculum actually used to be for P5s. And then last year they changed their design and decided to work with multiple year groups. So now Ben collaborates with various partners across P2, P3, P4, and P5. So some of you may have done, for example, the collaboration with CAF earlier in the year with the properties of materials. That was an expedition. And then we'll be running these workshops a couple of times a year where we're linking high quality literature. We're using really a mentor text, and then we're using that as a launching pad to link with a variety of subjects. So do stay tuned. This is the first of hopefully many collaborations. And again, like Kelly was saying, a real chance for you to come together as P3 teachers to share some ideas and best practices as well.
So like I said, this and all these graphs and everything will be available to you as well from the Horizons website. And this is just a chart of all the stuff that's going to be covered. So we've got 6 standards from language arts, 3 from social studies, 5 from science, and 3 from math. And one of the ones I really love is the way, we're going to speak with Chris in a minute, but it's answering real life questions and collecting and organizing, interpreting data. So we're actually getting kids involved in that experiential learning and using those skills in a meaningful way. So without further ado, I get to introduce Chris Faria, founder and managing director of AgraLiving.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for inviting me to this workshop. I'm really excited to be in the presence of so many wonderful P3 teachers. I'm definitely sending you a big up and lots of respect because I know it's not an easy job. Our plan for the expedition is to bring you and your students to our education garden that we have at Botanical Gardens. It's right next to Masterworks. Please do come and visit when you're there at Botanical Gardens. It is a education garden, so everything we do there is education. We teach adults and obviously also children. We've started to do a after-school program for 3 to 8-year-olds. We started last month and it's been growing really well. So it's a great way to trial, use different lessons and activities, some of which we will be using on these dates that we have here. And our idea is, am I correct in understanding that there's 2 classes of 16 coming at a time? Is that right, Sally and Kelly? Yes, yeah. Okay. So we will have both classes together. I will introduce them to the garden and to myself, and we are going to cover these standards that we put here, biology standards about plant parts, how plants take water up through their roots, and make generalizations and begin to identify simple patterns and results, which was difficult even for me to understand, but thankfully Kelly and Sally are there to explain it to me. And it's really getting about the students to, yes, by being able to identify plant parts in a diagram, but we're going to do show and tell, which is part of an activity that we're going to do in this intro ice breaking, where we're going to introduce seeds, seedling plants, and vegetables that are coming out of our garden, already in our garden. So we are going to use the example of tomato seedlings. So we have seedlings that are growing right now, and they'll be probably 6 weeks old when you guys come in April. Hopefully you come in April. We will have ones that are intermediate, about 2 weeks old, and then we will have tomato seeds to pass around for the children to see what the seeds look like and start to get this connection that plants grow from seed and they don't immediately become tomatoes that you harvest. There is a long process involved, so getting them to talk. We have lots and lots of discussion questions that we want to throw out there and get the children to use their hands when they want to answer the question, try to 30 students is going to be a lot to manage. So I definitely ask if the teachers can help as much as possible with that. We are going to do this experiment with celery, a few heads of celery, and using plant dye, and the celery sucks the dye up through the plant body. So it would be great. I really want to try to do this with a plant from our garden. So I'm going to test it before you guys come, because I really would like the plant, plant with roots to take the dye up and for it to end up in the stem. So should be doable. If not, we are going to fall back and use the celery experiments where we would use a head of celery, dip it in the colored dye water, and the children be able to see the color move up through the plant, through the celery stalks, and start to get this idea that the plants take up the water through the roots, and understanding this transport water also is bringing nutrients with the water and stuff like that. Why are plants important to us? So, we've talked about being able to identify different plants, identify the parts of different plants. So, I call it farming literacy. So I know Ben is really focused on reading literacy. So, our goal with the community in Bermuda is to increase farming knowledge. And that simply starts with being able to identify what different crops are. What does a tomato plant look like? What does potatoes, corn, all these different things we have in the garden. So starting that process and then eventually getting to the point where we ask the children, why are plants so important to us? And, we're hoping for lots of creative answers to there. Obviously food, we want to touch on the fact that plants are used for medicine. We use them for clothing, for building, and this really easy thing for us to understand, and it builds this reciprocity between us and plants, is this gaseous exchange where obviously we know, and the children will know, that we need oxygen to breathe and to live. And we'll learn that plants breathe in oxygen, carbon dioxide, which we respire. Our waste is carbon dioxide, which the plants take in. They use that with photosynthesis to create their own energy. So kind of get the kids to think about this cyclical process. I use the word reciprocity. Maybe that's a big word to use with children, but this like exchange or the cycle that we have with the plants as well. So a lot of discussion, wanting to use as many questions as possible to bounce at the kids, get them talking as much as possible. We understand I'm building this curriculum. I'm not a young childhood education expert. I'm a gardening expert, but I've been building this curriculum with an expert in childhood education, Montessori trained as well. So she's been helping me along the way. Yes, introducing photosynthesis simply as a way that plants make their own energy from sunlight and carbon dioxide, and they make sugars that get turned into this plant body. That's how plants grow. Kind of crash course in that type of biology. So we need plants to be able to breathe, and we'll learn what the but is. So I have filled in some of the vocabulary, just basic vocabulary that we're going to be talking about. I'm going to introduce photosynthesis. I don't know whether that's something that's been taught in P3 already. Kelly, can you answer that?
Yeah, it just comes up in this unit a lot.
Pardon me?
It definitely comes up in this unit a lot. It'll be new information for most of them.
It'll be new. Okay, cool. So yeah, I would definitely want to take time to make sure that, they're understanding basically how it happens. Resources, we don't need to go there. So the idea is to have this introduction that's about 10 to 15 minutes with both classes. And then we're going to split up and have one class come with me and the other class go with another facilitator that we have. It would be either Claire or Christina that's teaching with me. And Claire and Christina will be teaching this activity 1, which is going to continue discussing plant parts and what we can do with the plant parts. We can eat. We're in a vegetable garden, so what can we do with these plant parts is eat them. So we're going to be discussing that. I put these objectives and stuff in there, but this is the activity. So first off is going around the garden with the kids, kind of like a tour, and harvesting different vegetables during the tour. Introduce them to the plant. What do you think is edible in this plant? Can you identify where the leaves are and stuff like that? These are 5 examples that I know will be available when the children come, but there will be others as well that we can just introduce on the day, depending on the time you come. There's pigeon pea and potatoes, carrots, kale, broccoli. So all different vegetables that come from different parts of plants. And our idea is to go around with the children and harvest, a small amount of all of these vegetables, put them in a basket, harvest them with the children, get them active as much as possible, and then bring them back to the picnic table classroom that we have, put them out on the table and get the children to identify what they are again, talk about what parts of the plants they are, etc. And then we would have a bit of a scavenger hunt with the children. So they could start off by finding a plant in the garden that they might have a connection to and draw it, and then also label on their drawing all the different parts of the plants. And then it would be part of the scavenger hunt would be to find examples of plants that we can eat their roots, And then if they can remember their names from the tour, it would be good to, bring back that learning. Plants that grow into a flower, but not a vegetable. So that'd be interesting for them to find. Just being able to run around the garden and find different plants that have these plant parts they're asking about, basically. And find and name a plant that can be used for construction and housing. So lots of
Nice.
leading questions there. So that would be the first activity, and we're allowing half an hour for this to happen. After the half an hour that we're doing this, the classes swap. So while this activity is going with one class, I'll be teaching another activity that I'm going to describe. And then after the half an hour, we'll swap. So the other class will come with me, and the class that I was teaching goes to this activity one. And I'll be teaching these standards, which are social studies and math. So I really love to talk about food security, or what I like to talk more about is actually food resilience, because we're really concerned about growing enough food to sustain ourselves in Bermuda, but we really should talk about what do we need to do to live abundant lives, which might seem like a strange thing to talk to 7 to 8 year olds about, but identifying that it's not just about surviving but thriving, and really living a full and abundant life. It'd be starting with basic questions. What can you not live without? Which I'm afraid that some children might say their smartphone. But these children are young enough to not be so attached to it, but I don't know. But getting them to talk about things that we need. We need water and food and shelter. Where do these things come from? Luckily fortunately in Bermuda, we do have a fishing culture, which is another thing that also needs to be supported. But majority of our calories would be coming from food crops. We are even further down going to talk about staple crops, using flour, corn to make flour for us to eat, and also potatoes, things that have high calories. We're going to touch on that. Obviously fishing and farming would be the ideal, if we were getting most of our food and calories from there, but the reality is that we rely more on this shipping container imported, grown in another country scenario. Where does Bermuda get its food source? Food security, why is fishing, farming essential for this? Pretty much what we just discussed about. And then getting them to imagine this calamity, or catastrophe is the word I'll be using. And a lot of us growing up Bermuda, we always talk about what happens if the boat doesn't come in. So it's already kind of a cultural problem solving that we're used to, but what would really happen if the boat stopped coming in? Or a lot of times in my teaching, I asked my students, what would we do now if we knew we needed to grow all our own food in the next 5 years? We would really change our priorities in our lives, really spend more time learning and growing food. And that's really what I want to get to. But this is specific problem solving that we're going to start doing math with eventually. Getting them to think about, okay, we have this farmland. What can we grow on it? There's hundreds, thousands of different food crops. What are we going to decide to grow? We could talk a little bit about seasonality, but getting them to get to a point, we want plants that are nutrient dense and full of calories. So yes, we all love to grow tomatoes and broccoli, but if the boat stopped coming in, we would starve if we just had broccoli and tomatoes to eat. We would need to grow grains and high calorie crops. So introducing a simple grain like flour corn, which we would already have established and growing in our garden and can introduce them to. And I will bring some flour corn. I've just gotten a grain mill, so hopefully I can even make some corn to show them, some flour to show them, but we will at least have a mature corn flour seed to show them that this can be made into flour to make tortillas. Corn that's used for cornflakes isn't necessarily the same as using for tortilla chips, but understanding, what is corn flour used for. So some examples there. And in terms of high calorie crops, we are going to be using the example of potatoes, which we have lots growing in the garden. We can show the plants growing. We can harvest a little bit with the children. They can see the potatoes coming out from under the soil. And understanding, we need to have these high calorie crops to grow a lot of calories. And that's where the math problem comes in. And
If
on
we
the
could,
what?
Chris, this is so great. And we really, what is helpful, I think, for teachers as well is the fact that they can see what the children are going to be learning. So teachers, we're hoping that you can do some pre-learning with your students as well, so that you know what they're coming to. And I think we all know that we could do whole units with AgraLiving. The maths is exciting. It's our first workshop with maths. So Chris, if I could just give you a minute to talk about the maths, and then unfortunately, I think we could all listen to you, but then we might have to wrap up in a couple of minutes on the
Oh yeah,
Agra.
sorry.
No,
I
it's
didn't mean to
great.
take
We're
this
all
off.
loving it. We just need more time.
I'm gonna wrap it up real quick. So the maths problem is really working out how many plants do we have in a certain area. So we would start with an example on the whiteboard. Different plants had different spacing. How many plants do we have across in terms of width? So 3, 4, 5 plants. And then how many rows do we have of those plants? So it can be 3 by 5, or it can be 6 by 10. And getting them, we'll have clipboards and paper for them to work out these multiplication of how many plants are in this area on the whiteboard. And then we're going to practice that in real life in the garden with at least 1 or 2 different examples. Obviously, we want to focus on the corn and potato example, but there's lots and lots of other examples we can use for them to, I don't want them to count out individually, but be able to do multiplication and figure out how many plants are there.
Great. Thank you.
And then we are going to sow some sunflower seeds in some pots for you to take back to school to do some more learning. And then there's a closing circle in the last 10 to 15 minutes. So I was told to jam it in so that there wasn't any empty space. Cool. So,
And that, teachers, is your science units and maths units support.
Yeah.
And self-study.
cool. So I'll stop sharing my screen then.
Please, does anyone, I mean, we're going to press on with the lessons in a minute, but does anyone have any kind of super important questions they'd like to ask Chris now? And if not now, I'm sure he can be available by now.
Oh yeah, you can email him questions, definitely.
That sounds fantastic. And I just love the idea, Chris, as well. When you talk about the students being reverent in the garden, and there's a real kind of respect for the nature and the planting and the growing as well. And I think that would be really special for the students.
Mm-hmm.
And abundance, I don't think you're ever too young to learn about abundant living.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Thank you.
I think Miss Wilson asked if we will have samples for them to try. So thank you for bringing that up. I will definitely, we should still have carrots in the garden. I think that's a big winner for little children to pull up some carrots and eat them, but we have to make sure that they're washed properly. We can definitely come back for some cooking another day. The only question that I have for teachers, if you have students that have any learning challenges, if you can let us know beforehand, and if they need any additional support, you know, a lot of our, it's 3 of us that are doing this facilitating for this, but you know, one of them does have, you know, experience teaching special needs students. So if that can just be communicated to us.
Thank you.
Who would we contact? Would we contact Dan, or who would we send that information to?
I mean, I'm gonna put my email in the chat here, and you're more than welcome to communicate with me directly about anything that has to do with this. It's better that you, that way, you know, we can communicate directly about that.
Okay, thank you.
Chris Faria. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for
Take
having
care
me.
of soil.
Yes. Talk to you later.
Bye. Thanks very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Okay, thanks everyone. And so hopefully that was a lot. We know that's a lot of information, but we also wanted to, when we were working with Chris, even just to introduce students to some standards, you know, or they might have done the learning in the class, but just to reaffirm. And at AgraLiving, for example, when you're learning about roots and things, they've just got huge systems there. So we'll move on now to how we, you know, this workshop, obviously, as you've already seen, links to lots of other subjects. Why do we do cross-curricular learning? We feel that it really, you know, it ties in, it helps us as teachers, right, to be able to tie in our subjects, especially when we have more time, say, for example, in our English language arts. And you'll see that our lesson plans are essentially using English language arts time to bring in social studies and science. We also want our students to understand, obviously, that life doesn't work in subjects. And so when they're linking those maths, and Kelly was telling me, you know, about your standards include real life maths problems, right? Like have that real life experience. So we're hoping this will also be helpful there. And I think we can move on, Kelly. Maybe we can just that, yeah. And again, coming back, I just want this reading comprehension piece. We're hoping as well that by linking into these other subjects, vocabulary is a huge point for Ben, and we want children's reading, you know, to be really developing and helping teachers in how can we support that. And so by linking in our science and social studies into our English language arts and really deepening that usage of science vocabulary, for example, we're hoping that will be helpful.
Yeah, and I'm just so thankful for Ben for expanding our classroom libraries with even like door-to-door service. So, oh, here's a new book for you guys to try. Because I know sometimes when you get in that rhythm of doing the same thing every year, you get into doing the same thing every year. So to have that extra resource is amazing, where you didn't have to, you know, spend hours on the internet searching for it. It just magically appeared.
Yeah,
and we know the research that shows that cross-curricular lessons are much more meaningful than teaching in isolation. And incorporating experiences like this just makes the learning even more powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And so with that, you'll see, we'd like to give you a few minutes now to actually look at your Anywhere Farm book, because while you'll have received it, we know how busy you are and you may not have even had a time to open it. And you did get an extra bonus book. That's an extra gift we have. We won't be looking at Tree as such today, but it's a lovely poetry book that you could hopefully tie in multiple ways to a variety of units. So we're going to give you now, say, 3 minutes to just explore this book for yourselves, have a read, have a look at the illustrations. And we'd love to know and do some sharing afterwards, like what are your initial thoughts and responses? What do you notice? What comes to mind? So we're just going to spend the next few minutes looking at our books.
But do your picture walk. Well, I thought right away that this picture could be used for the diagram of a plant because it even shows the roots underneath and all the parts of the plant.
I like that. Would anyone else like to share? We'd love to hear what people noticed.
Well, when I read the book to my children, the first thing we noticed was the person's name, Root. And so that tickled the children a little bit because the rest of the person's name is Root, part of a tree. So that was exciting for them.
Yeah.
I like the idea that it gives the students different locations to start their farm, Anywhere Farm, in a crate, in isolated areas. I think that's cool as well.
We actually have a garden here at Heron Bay Primary, and it's amazing. I hate it, but the children love it. So I think that the visit, and even getting through the book, the visit, it will definitely be exciting for them because their teacher is not into outdoor activities, but hopefully this will definitely pique their interest when they come to visit. I do like, what I like about this is it's kid friendly. I mean, I like the way you incorporated poetry and the pictures. It's a very easy read. It's a book where one of my children can even read to the rest of the class. And I like, as someone mentioned just now, the fact that it's, you can plant anywhere. It's not just our garden, because right now it's just in our garden. We do have a square foot garden out here on the porch for the P1s, but we actually have a garden that's sectioned off for each class. And as I said, I don't like to go up there, but I don't have a choice because they love it. So this is timely, definitely timely for my class.
I haven't been up that way in a while, but has anyone seen like the house right before Elbow and Bermuda College where they've got like old toilets as planters?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what made me think like you can do anything.
Yes. This is timely for us as we were adopted by a company and they built the letter E in our courtyard and they fixed up our courtyard. And it's not, teachers were asked, and at first I was like, oh, I'll watch. Then I was like, nah, like Kathy, but I took a part of it, and a class was out today, and we're starting to plant. They gave us seedlings to plant tomatoes. I said, how many different types of tomatoes are there? And so it's going to be so exciting because the children are going to see. I was like, all of these different types of tomato, and we have tomatoes, and we have two teachers that are into gardening, so they're going to help us out. And with this, doing this is like, I'm getting excited now. I'm like, oh, good, right? We can tie this in, and they'll be able to talk about going out into their garden and watering and weeding and things like that, getting their hands dirty. So yeah, I'm getting excited about it.
Oh, good.
And I love the cross curriculum. I mean, before it was called whole language, you know, and just going from subject to subject and integrating the subjects is awesome.
Great. Thank you for sharing. And I saw someone as well was talking about that repetitive language in the chat, which we know is really valuable. So we might start with we'll go into the lessons. Something I noticed on a few readings was seeing the same characters appear, and actually it's the same setting. And as the book goes on, I noticed that more pots appeared on certain balconies and the growth, right? So there is definitely a lot in here, like you've all said. And I think, Miss Kathy, I think by the end of this, you're going to be a convert. I think you'll be out there. So we'll start here. Our lesson 1, we decided.
But it's funny, I'm sorry, Sally, but it's funny. My parents have a garden. They've started to have a garden. My sister has one, and they did give me seeds and seedlings. So it's like, just, yeah, pray for me.
And as someone just mentioned now as well, the diversity in this book, and we think that's also, yeah, that's so important in everything we're looking at. So here we started this first lesson really, and you'll see there's a lot of information here. This is really, it's just there for you to use it to adapt, but we thought put in more than less. With the first learning target, we thought it was speaking and listening one, something that's come up over some workshops. Teachers have said, you know, sometimes it's really hard to meet those speaking and listening criteria, to find ways of assessing and measuring. So we thought here, you know, the learning target to listen and respond appropriately to others' views and opinions. And in the success criteria, I've also tried to use the scores, right? So can they listen and respond by agreeing and disagreeing, building on their arguments, you know, explaining their reasons for why they agree or disagree. And that this first activity really is a see, think, wonder. I'm not sure, some of you may be familiar with this. It's a thinking routine from Artful Thinking that comes out of the Harvard Ed School. And essentially, I'm sure it's something that a lot of us do. But it's asking the students, what do you see? And even this can be really powerful modeling with the cover of a text, right? So I've put here an example. I see a girl and an adult putting up a sign over something. This suggests to me this garden might be new. And that's exciting. We've used this word exciting. And it makes me wonder, why did they create a garden there? Something that I really like about this routine is that it can be differentiated very simply. So some of your students might just be at the phase of, what can you see? And that's enough. Others might be, what do you see? And how can that lead to what do you think? And then some might be at the full, I see, I think, I wonder phrasing of it. And so as you're reading this book, and we've all noted the beauty is that you can really grow a farm anywhere. And so what we've done, in a minute, we'll show you this resource, but you could have it in a plant pot, cut up all the names of these places and where you could grow an anywhere farm. And then something fun is that they can pick out on a piece of paper these different anywhere farm locations. So like it could be a box, a bucket, a horn, like this. So you could print this off, and we'll have all our resources on the Ben website. You could cut these up, put them in a plant pot or something, and then they pick one out. And then what they have to do is they have to write about, if you could just go back, thanks Kelly, to the lesson, they have to write, why is there, as we see in the main session, explain that they're going to create an argument for why is there any farm receptacle the best. So I put an example. A box on a bike is the best place for a seed, because you can just wheel it in and out of the sun and rain, and you can take your plant on day trips, and so it doesn't get bored being in the same place all day. So you can have fun with this as well, right? Like, this is just a time for them to be using this vocabulary, having some fun. You can choose, your students might be working on bullet points, so you might write it in point form. You might want them to be practicing their sentences, whatever it looks like to you. And then in the end, what they could do is share their argument with a partner. And that's when you're building into the partner might agree or disagree, give their reasons why. They might say, I disagree, the plant might fall off the box, right? The bike isn't very stable. So just having fun with this language and exercise. And then at the end, they might want to share with the class, right? And you could continue, again, however it works for your class. You might have different partners, different groups, and so on. And so we just thought that as our first lesson. And then moving on to the next one. So we've got this for you. And then the next lesson after this, and that's just an outline of the See, Think, Wonder routine, just to get children thinking. Yep, and we'll include that for you. It's a really nice way to get the skim master. The next lesson, really, we were looking at the unit you've just finished. It looks like you've been doing adventures and story writing. And so we thought it would be nice to maybe build on some of that prior learning, but in a different way, which can be really helpful. So again, it's developing descriptions of settings, which you may be doing right now in your story writing, but you could use it with this science unit as well. And I've really looked at, again, this score 3, now that we're in term, moving into term 3 and getting to the end of the year. A lot of this showing instead of tell, right? So can you show instead of tell the setting? And as we were reading this standard, it was like, this fits in so well, like show time of day. That just fits into the plants, right? And show the seasons. And it just links so nicely with the biology. So again, reading the book again, it's a short text. That's what else we like about it. It can be read multiple times without taking much time. And then here is just having a bit of fun where really the seed can be the character in its own story. And the receptacle can be the setting. And so that is something, you could play with. So ask them, and you can differentiate it. They can choose their own seed. We've provided a list. And then in this main activity, you can see here, we've done a me, we, you. So for example, they choose a sunflower seed in a bucket. How can we show and not tell it's a bucket? And then you could do, I've given an example there. And again, differentiating that in a multitude of ways. And at the end, we thought it would be fun to do a bit of role play. So ask the student to come up to the front and maybe role play their seed, but don't tell the class what seed they are or where their Anywhere farm is. They could just read their descriptions, and then the rest of the class might have to guess where their Anywhere farm is. And Kelly had the idea as well, if they could get stickers, for example, if someone is able to guess it really quickly, because it means they've just done such a great job on their show, not tell. So again, just recapping some of that learning. And I think that's it for that one. And then you can see, again, we'll provide this resource if you want to print this out and cut it up. And we've put in purple, you can see they're just ones we've added. You can always obviously add your own. You might want to use some of the animals as well.
And I'm kicking myself now for not adding loquats.
Yeah.
I have lost count of how many times I've been driving somewhere and just seen happy Bermudians picking loquats off the side of the road. And they're actually, like, my kids and I have grown mini little loquat trees. They're pretty easy, like, to get to germinate and to stick in a tiny pot.
And make into a yummy crumble.
Exactly. Oh, I did that the other night. All right, so this next lesson, I tried to incorporate some technology into it. So one of the social studies standards is talking about pros and cons of technology. Our kids are thrown into technology all the time. So I always give them the example of technology being useful. So when I was a little girl, my mom went to the library and she got a book on how to French braid. And she brought that book home, and I maybe had my hair in a French braid 3 times, and it was a hot mess. I never do anything like that, never learned how to do it. My mom never learned how to do it. When my daughter was about 7, she looked up on YouTube, and this girl can do French braids, Dutch braids, the inside out braids. And it's amazing. I never had that skill. Our kids sometimes just learn in a different way. So I thought it would be really neat to let them, you know, plan out and then write their own scripts to teach someone else how to do something and to incorporate our theme, how to grow a specific plant. So this would be the planning standard for writing, just to organize their thoughts, get it all together, have those conversations around what would they need, what are your resources. There's a great, I hope this link works. Oh, hold on one second, I might need to step out of this. So there's a great link for, is it here?
Yeah.
Here we go. There's a great link to the AgraLiving video where Claire shows you how to plant a seed. So to use that as like a mentor video, is this one? There we
There's
go.
one underneath. Yeah.
Here we go.
And this is where they'll be going as well, right? So that's exciting for them to see.
And they're all kid friendly and really well production wise. These are all really great videos and local, which is really nice because you can see that they're clearly in Bermuda while this is happening.
So Kelly, you said that this is available on this site or it's being sent to us.
So I've created a Bitmoji Classroom. So I'm going to get to that in a second, but you can use that video where she literally tells you step by step how to do it to then create your own graphic organizer. So, and you can do this together like that, me, we, you, we can do this for the we and do it together and say, oh, step one, she gathered all her materials. Step two, she put the soil in the pot, and going through each step, you can demonstrate what she did as if she was making her own graphic organizer. So this will be available to you as well. And then this is also another piece to get your thoughts on paper. You got the intro, the materials, vocabulary. Who knows what an outro is? Nobody
Well, I'm
knows.
glad it wasn't just me.
Outcome,
The and, like the
Yeah.
intro is the beginning, the outro
the
is
summary, the
the
closing,
end of it.
plenary.
Exactly. So because all of our assemblies are now videos, the P6s were talking the other day and they were dividing up how they were going to run their assembly. And they're like, oh, who's doing the outro? The what now? The outro, because YouTubers have an intro and then they have the outro. The outro probably usually ends with, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. But the outro is like their conclusion, their little summary at the end and how they sign off. So I was trying to incorporate some new information that the kids could relate to as well.
Get down with the kids.
Yeah. So yes, all of those will be available as well. So for that video, so this is just basically doing the me, doing the we, doing the you, planning it, and then them getting themselves ready to start thinking about, okay, well, brainstorming the list of materials or picking the plant they want to do. And I never go and buy seeds. Fruit time. Okay, what you got? You know, oh, I have an orange. Great. Are there any seeds in it? See if you can find it. Oh, and oh, who's got a loquat? You know, a couple days before, who's got loquats in their house? Oh, all right. You've got some in your backyard. Bring in the seeds. Oh, we had peppers for dinner last night. Awesome. Bring in the seeds. And also showing them that you don't have to make a whole mission to, you know, Brighton Nursery or Sousa's. Like, no, you can just find these things all around you. It's not, you know, a whole big ordeal. It's literally at your house already. And also another video that Claire has shows kids how to make a pot just using newspaper and shows you how to fold it. And then it's biodegradable as well. So you just put that pot in the ground once the seedlings sprouted. Yeah. And then just reminding them to, you know, you have an audience. You want this to be entertaining. And I always use my boring voice when I'm doing things with the kids and say, okay, who wants to read the story about the dog that ran? Or would you rather read the story about the dog that ran across the street to avoid the, you know, the gigantic monster that was chasing him around the corner and down the windy road? And like, which one sounds better? Which one would your audience enjoy? And just giving them the right reminder that they're writing it for a purpose. You're not just writing it just because your teacher told you had to write it down.
And what we love about the AgraLiving and what, you know, Chris was talking about farming literacy, right? And so in this how-to anywhere farm Bermuda style, it's really promoting that, you know, we can all do something and all play a part in, you know, a sustainable future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're small, they still have power. They've got big visions of what this island can be.
Absolutely.
And the second lesson is actually filming it, getting the kids to practice in small groups, practice, articulating it well, adding in the more farming vocabulary, throw in photosynthesis, but throw in germinate. We're not just gonna, put it in there and stick it in the sun, expanding on that vocabulary around it, discussing the factors that help it. You're not gonna stick it in the closet. You're gonna find a spot by the window. You're gonna water it daily, and being very intentional about their word choice, which is another standard. And then I also know that it's hard because I've done this many times with how-to videos, and it's wonderful when it works. It's tricky when you have 15 other children waiting for their turn. That's the hard part, right? So I've created this magical Bitmoji Classroom. Anybody use Bitmoji Classrooms?
I may have to call you to help me finish it off.
That's fine. I can help with that.
I have it set up, but I'm not this far.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm going to share this one with you. We were going to collect your emails and I think leave in the survey at the end, and I can send you this. And your P3s have Chromebooks now.
Yeah.
So pull this up, and where the question marks are, it brings you to a Kahoot.
Right.
Familiar with Kahoot?
Yes.
So these are all Kahoots that will ask you plant questions, and they're all based on what we've been learning. Okay, let's see.
And the great thing is students can also create their own Kahoots, maybe not at this stage, but certainly as they get older, and they love to create quizzes for one another.
And it's starting, so shout out some answers. Ready? Leaves make food for the plant is the plural of leaves or means take off. Which one is it? Yeah, they make food. Absolutely. I'll give you two more. Let's see who can get. Oh, look, we're in first place. Petals. What do the petals do? They're part of a bicycle. They protect the inner part of the plant, or they're a ban on sticky fresh triggers.
Protecting the part of the plant.
Awesome. Oh, look, we're winning. And I can't tell you, I've put Kahoots in for times tables, and how excited my kids are about being quizzed on their times tables is ridiculous right now. So Roots are America's favorite late night band, taking water from the plant, or what some people get touched up with their dye jobs of age.
Taking water from the plants.
Yes. So some of them are silly. There's about 4 of them on there.
Great.
It's the music is
I
loud.
like this.
Yeah, they're fun, right?
I'm sorry, can you explain again how we can access the Kahoots?
So you just click, sorry, hold on one sec. Oh. So I've created that whole Bitmoji Classroom, and I will send you to a link for it. And are your kids using their Chromebooks?
They use their Chromebooks, but we're not using that platform. What is it that
you don't need to log in or anything. You just click on it and it brings you right to the game. I've already set up the game.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for sharing that, Kelly.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't that's one of the things I love about Ben. It's like I said, I work in a single stream school. I love sharing things with other teachers. What's the point of me spending, 3 hours making this if it's just for 16 kids,
Mm-hmm.
So are you familiar with Epic?
Played it once.
So Epic is a site for books. So each of these books will bring you to a different how-to book. So the kids can be reading the books at their seats on their Chromebook while you're doing filming of another kid's project. So this one is all how do plants grow. And there's different, I've tried to choose a range of reading levels. So you just click on it and they can be reading all the information just to back up the, incorporating literacy with the science. So they're all on the same topic. So that one's on, and I believe this guy is reading the one. There's literally a book on how to write how-to books. So to give them tips in that. So all these links are just embedded in that one picture. So if you share the Bitmoji Classroom, then kids can just jump off of this. So it's almost like their webpage with all the different things. I've got the AgraLiving videos are on here as well. Basically, any picture you see, you click on it and it'll bring it to you. Okay, so
So
this,
Kelly, you're saying that we can share your Bitmoji Classroom with our students?
yep, absolutely.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So this one, Sally said I should put it on here. It's to go with the importance of shipping and farming and fishing. My husband's a fisherman, so last year in remote, when we were doing this unit, I made him do a video for my class. So this is not high quality.
Hi class, I'm Pirate Pete. How's everybody doing today?
So this is him in St. George's cutting up fish. And then there's him out to sea, just because kids actually bringing in some, and they can really get the feel of what's going on.
It's a really fantastic video, and I know a lot of Bermudian children love to fish. That's something I've definitely noticed and have experience of the sea. And then for those who possibly haven't been out or know what it looks like, I think it's yeah, I loved it. So thank you, Kelly, for creating this. And like Kelly was saying, I was checking that as well. It's like, so this can be used by anyone. And Kelly said yes. Just if they share their email address, right, in the survey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. And then just to finish off at the end, we don't have time to show it now because we'd like you to do the survey before you sign off. But it was wonderful that Chris has actually shared a song on this presentation. And we'd love it for you to share with your class. It's about, thank you. It's about the importance of plants, and it's really bigger picture stuff. It's about being, global citizens responsible for looking after our planet and what we can do for seeds. It's very empowering. It's to a song I'm sure a lot of the children will know. And Chris was talking about if the children get a chance to listen to the song and have a go at it before they do their visit, that could be something they can even have a go at AgraLiving.
Yep. And he sent me the audio file. So I put that in the second slide of the Bitmoji. So this will come up, and I put the words in the background too. So Chris sent me all this and I just threw it in there as well. So you'll have access to it. So you can throw it on the smartboard while they're eating their fruit or at the end of the day, practice singing it.
Yeah, thank you. And then finally, we just wanted to say that these resources will be shared with you. They'll be on the BEN website. And on that, you can also see if you have colleagues in P2, P4, P5, ask them to check out the BEN website as well. We have a lot of resources on these cross-curricular learning pieces. And if we could just go to the next slide, Kelly, we'd love to actually hear about the learning you do in your class. So on the last slide, we actually do say, we know with COVID, things have been different and our timings sometimes are different on where we're teaching units, but we'd love to build on the planning we've done from next year. So if you do something different, please let us know. I'll send out my email as well. And if we can come back as a group and share our ideas, because we are a professional learning community, that's what we're building here as well. It is 1 minute to 4. So I'm going to put in the chat our feedback. It's just a very quick questionnaire. It means a lot to us if you can complete this before you sign off. And remember to put your email address at the end. Is there anything, Kelly, you wanted to add lastly?
I'm just going to throw my email in here too. If you want it right away, I can send you the Bitmoji Classroom. Or as I'm kind of like dorky like this. So if you take some really good videos and you want to send them to me, I'd love to put them all together and make like one big video of how-tos from kids around all the P3s from around the island. So I'd really appreciate that as well. And
thanks for raising that, Kelly, because we did talk about that. We really want students, this is a how-to Bermuda style, right? Like how-to anywhere farm. And if we could be sharing these videos with our communities, how can we in Bermuda be growing things even from a shoe, an old shoe? How fun, right? So any of your videos would be very, very welcome. And we'd love to put it out there in the wider community.
Yes, thank you all for coming. I know it's hard to do after a long school day, so thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just filled out the survey.
Thank you,
I
Kelly.
was
I'll be
back
in
and
touch.
forth.
Thank you. It was awesome. I appreciate it.
Very much so.
Yes, thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Looking forward to the visit.
Me too.
Yes.
Thanks for the pre-made resources.
Oh, you're welcome.
And also you'll be receiving a PD attendance, an hour's PD as well. That will be coming to you in the next few days.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Crystal.
Hi, P3 teachers. How you doing?
Hi,
Very
tired.
nice to see you guys.
Oh, it's been too long.
I know, I know.
This
Take care,
daylight
guys.
savings is kicking me. I'm just so done.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, it takes me the whole week just to get back on track.
I know.
Yeah.
You'll be
Kelly,
okay.
it's been a while since I've seen you.
I know, I've been hiding in St. George's.
Telling you, girl. I see everybody else, but I don't see you. All right, ladies.
Talk to you guys soon.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
again.
Thank you.
Thanks.